This program is brought to you by thepodcastfactory.com.
They looked at marketers that sent monthly emails, marketers that sent weekly emails, marketers that sent daily emails, and they found the highest unsubscribe rate was for marketers who sent monthly emails. And the lowest unsubscribe rates were for marketers who sent daily emails.
Hi, my name is Igor Kheifets, and this is The List Building Lifestyle, the only podcast which delivers cutting-edge conversion strategies from the online trenches straight to your earbuds. Download the transcript of today's episode and all future episodes at listbuildinglifestyleshow.com. I also invite you to grab a free copy of the Wealthy List Builder Survival Guide at listbuildinglifestyleshow.com/survival. And now, once again, it's time to claim your list building lifestyle. Welcome back to another edition of the List Building Lifestyle with your host, Igor Kheifets. Having sold insurance, fax machines, and printing software door-to-door and on the phone, John Fancher did traditional grunt-work-rich selling for automated email marketing. John specializes at writing hardcore, long-winded email sequences. He also authored a great reference guide titled 99 Questions, which solves email marketers' number one challenge of not knowing what to write about by presenting you with 99 questions to ask yourself next time you sit down to craft an email. Please help me welcome the rock and roll email guy, John Fancher.
Hi, Igor. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you for doing this, man. You're very busy. You write emails for some, high-profile clients, and I truly appreciate taking time to sit down with me and help our cause of educating list builders on how to properly extract big profits from small lists.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Glad to be here.
And I'd like to just, go ahead and dive right into the number one problem I believe each and every single email marketer experiences right now, and that is having a hard time coming up with email fodder, with things to write about. So in your opinion, John, why does that happen?
Well, I think for a lot of reasons. Probably the main reason is I think that I would start with they believe that they need to talk about their product or service or what they're selling in the email. My product or my service is only so many features, there's only so many benefits that I can come up with. So how could I possibly write, for example, an email every single day to my list? So I think that's one of the reasons that a lot of people have trouble coming up with things to write about in their emails. I think another one is, and it's probably very close to that first reason, is they are overly concerned about spamming their list, being considered a spammer, or fatiguing their list by writing to them too often. Like their list is going to say, I can't believe this guy is sending me an email every single day. He's driving me crazy, and I'm going to, hit the spam button and unsubscribe and all that stuff. And then you get a bad reputation with your email provider. So I think there's a lot of reasons people have trouble coming up with ideas, but those are probably the top two that I hear the most often.
And, I agree with you completely. I'm not sure if they're the top two, but they're definitely the two most common ones that come up for me whenever I am working with my VIP club members, my private coaching clients. And that is quite literally like the fear of either offending the subscriber by sending them too much email, just way too many emails. And of course, believing that, how can I come up with so many things to write about? So let's circle back to the first issue. And that is, the belief that you have to talk about your product, which I believe is like one of the most common, of course, mistakes people make. And we did another episode of the List Building Lifestyle Show with Daniel Levis, another great copywriter, where we spoke about a bunch of things you could talk about. But I would love to hear your perspective as to, if not the product, what do I talk about in my emails?
Well, there are many things that you could talk about other than the product. I think a big mistake that a lot of marketers make is jumping to the solution to the problem before they've spent enough time agitating the problem. I think a lot of marketers want to jump right to talking about, what I call the after picture, right? You have the before and the after. And a lot of marketers just want to talk about how awesome the after picture will be once the prospect, purchases their product or gets involved in their service. And they don't spend enough time agitating the problem. So, I try, when I'm writing emails, I try to make most of my emails about the before, about the pain, about the problem, about the discomfort, telling stories that hopefully the prospect who's reading the email, it's a story that they've been through, that they can relate to, that sort of, agitates their discomfort with their current situation. Because some marketer who's way smarter than me, I can't remember his name, but he said, people don't make a change until they're sufficiently uncomfortable with their current situation. Right? We all just have this sort of inertia of we want to stay in the situation we're in. We don't want to, get up off the couch and take action unless we absolutely have to. So, I think probably the primary job of a marketer is not so much getting them to salivate over your solution, but to get them to be and to feel the discomfort of their current situation. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I'm actually taking notes, believe it or not. I mean, I'm muting myself so you won't hear my keyboard, just but I'm definitely, taking notes. And this is exactly the same thing that I've heard Dan Kennedy say, I believe, in one of those super duper expensive seminars, where he said most people, they do skip to the after, just like you're saying, right? They don't spend as nearly enough time at the before stage, which is agitating, right, that problem. So could you perhaps give us an example if we are, and I hope you're cool with doing a high wire act, by the way, like how would you agitate a problem if we, for example, sell a make money online product, right? Some like a system that helps people make money from home. An example of what would like an email look like? What kind of problem would you agitate? How would you twist that knife, if you will? I would love if you could give us an example.
Well, I think there are a lot of different ways to agitate that problem. Probably the best way to do that is, so if you take, most of us have had conversations with our prospects, either on email or maybe on the phone or in person. And if you think back to, let's say, an email, say somebody sent you an email that said, here's what I'm going through right now. I have this 9-to-5 job that I don't really care for, and I'd like to get out of this job. But, every solution I've looked at is going to require me to do, 30 hours of work on my spare time every week, and I just don't have that time available. And I've got a wife and kids, and I've got a mortgage that I can barely pay. And, I've got back taxes due. And last year I had to have surgery and my insurance didn't cover everything. So I've got to cover that. And I'm just looking for a way. But everything I look into either requires tons of time or it requires some sort of expertise that I don't have that would take me months to learn, or it costs, $3,000 just to get started and I don't have that. And, what am I supposed to do to get out of this situation? So if you've ever had a conversation like that or received an email like that from a prospect, that can be 90% of an email, right? You could just start your email that goes out to your list with something like, hey, I just got off the phone with this guy and here's what he said. And basically what you're doing is, in Perry Marshall's world, who I write a lot of emails for him, we call it sort of reading your diary back to them, right? These are all the problems I'm going through. This is the pain, and I'm looking for a solution, and nobody seems to have it. And then at the end of the email, you don't have to pitch really hard, but you can say, something to the effect of, I used to be in exactly that situation, and then I found this. And I got, maybe quickly list a few benefits. And if you want to find out more about that and see if it's right for you, click here.
Nice. So 90% of that email is not about the product at all.
Right. It's one thing it's doing is bonding with the audience. And by the way, if you can tell that story and that story is you, that's even more powerful, right? So if you used to be in that situation and you used to have all those problems and you used to complain about all those things, that makes it even more powerful. And it has the added benefit of, so like in Perry's world, Perry Marshall, and for those on the call who don't know who Perry is, he's the world's foremost authority on Google AdWords. And he's written books on Google AdWords and Facebook advertising and things like that. So he's been an internet marketing, personality for, probably 10 years, well respected. So one of the issues when you're in a position like that is people will often think, well, Perry's this guru and he's this expert and he knows all these things. And of course he can make these things work, but I'm not like Perry. So one of the things Perry does in a lot of his emails is he writes about his days back before he was, the guru, back before he was an expert and had his own company and had written several books. And what that allows him to do is, in a way, sort of overcome the objection of I have to be an expert or a guru to make these things work. People read it and they say, oh, Perry used to be just like me. He used to have the same problems I did. He used to know nothing about this marketing stuff just like I do. So he's not this superhero that I can't relate to. He's this guy who had the same struggles I did, but he finally found the right way to solve those problems. And if I follow what he recommends, then, hopefully the same thing will happen for me.
And what if they're not a guru? What if our listeners, and I'm assure you, by the way, like 99% of people listening to this are wondering exactly the same question right now. Okay, yeah. Perry is a guru, and he has those days when he wasn't, and he can talk about those. But what if I'm still going through those days right now? What would I write about that?
Yeah, well, then I think you're going to have to steal some stories from somebody else. Right? You're going to have to, at least as far as the after picture goes, I think you're going to have to pick some proof. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about, or a lot, I guess, up to this point, about pain. And again, there's a copywriting expert named Gary Benson-Vega who talks about the 4 P's in marketing, and one of them is pain or problem, and another one is proof, of course. Okay, so if you don't have your own proof, then you need to go out and get proof from somewhere else, right? If you can't say I've done this, then you need to go out and find proof that the system works when you work it, right? Or third-party proof, or if you can find articles from respected sources that prove that your system works, or you've got testimonials from other people who've done it. There's lots of different ways of finding proof, right? And if that's your problem, then you need to spend as much time as you can gathering proof elements and incorporating those in your email. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. So you're talking about studying the success stories of your respected company or product and leveraging those, showing those in your emails. And so I get that. So earlier we mentioned that the second most common reason people struggle with email is because they're afraid to piss people off. They're afraid to alienate people with the frequency of their emails. So perhaps you could talk a little bit about why that's a huge misconception.
Okay. Well, there's a few reasons for that. First of all, if you do pitch in your emails, and that's all you do, and all you do is talk about the solution, all you do is talk about your product or your service, and say what a great idea it would be to buy now, then you are going to be considered spammy, and they're going to consider you annoying, and they're going to unsubscribe and all that stuff. But there are many different ways to go about writing an email that don't have to be spammy. We've already touched on that a little bit. Staying in the problem, talking about the problem more, and bonding with your audience and agitating their discomfort so that they're more motivated to take action. But there are a lot of ways to be sort of a welcome guest in the inbox rather than a pest. One is to tell great stories. I think people love to hear stories, and stories sell better than straight pitching does. So if you can tell a compelling story, then people will look forward to getting your next email. If you can give them some practical tips that make their life easier, you'll be more welcome in their inbox. If you're humorous and entertaining and unique and different from everything else they get in their inbox, you'll be more welcome than you would if you're just pitching. I always try to follow, an 80-20 of content and pitching. I try not to pitch in an individual email more than 20% of that email. Or if I'm writing like a series of emails, say 7 emails, I try to make 5 of them or so, more content and maybe only a couple of them harder pitch emails. I also remember a study. Now, this was a few years ago. Study by, I can't remember. I think it was MailChimp that studied millions and millions and millions of emails from, email marketers. And they studied frequency versus unsubscribe rates and the correlation between the two. And they looked at marketers that sent monthly emails, marketers that sent weekly emails, marketers that sent daily emails. And they found the highest unsubscribe rate was for marketers who sent monthly emails. And the lowest unsubscribe rates were for marketers who sent daily emails. Now, there's a lot of ways to screw up sending a daily email. So it's not just you're going to send a daily email and that's going to keep your unsubscribe rates the lowest. But I think what it does point out is there's a major misconception with most marketers that sending too often is annoying and will get you unsubscribed. That's just not borne out by the fact. And I think it has to do with if people like you and like hearing from you, they want to hear from you a lot. So if you do a really good job of entertaining or being relevant, telling a good story, bonding with them, making them feel like they're understood, and giving them practical tips that actually make their life easier, then they'll want more of that. So does that kind of answer the question?
Oh, wow. You just made a huge dent in this whole thing. Like, I knew that daily emails is the way to go. Don't get me wrong. I've been preaching email daily ever since, we started the show and years before that. And I seem to have surrounded myself with people who agree with me, right? My friend Ben Settle, Doberman Dan, Daniel Levis. And so that's great. But I never had scientific proof. I've had monetary proof, but I never had scientific proof, which you just supplied for us, that unsubscribes go up in reverse to the frequency. And that, my friend, is music to my ears.
Yeah. Now, like I said, there's a lot of ways to be really annoying if you send an email out every day. So you got to do it right. But yeah, the fact is that, people like to hear from you. They like to hear from you, and they'll want to hear from you more. So if you sort of take that trust that they've given you and are responsible with it and treat it the right way, then there's no reason that they won't want to keep hearing more from you because you're doing something different than 99.9% of the emails that they get from other marketers. They're just always, think about the emails you get from big companies, like Office Depot or something like that. Who opens those?
Who subscribes to those?
Yeah, I know. Well, you don't. I don't think you even do. I think you buy a product and then they just put you on the list and start forcing out emails to you, which is another good point to talk about, by the way, that, I think you should be upfront with your list about how frequent you're going to be sending to them, and you should get permission to send an email. You shouldn't just start pushing out emails the way, these big dumb corporations do. You mentioned some folks there. One guy I think that does a really great job at this, you've probably heard of him, is Ben Settle.
Oh, yeah. We had him on the show.
Yeah, Ben's great. Ben's awesome. And he does a fantastic job of exactly what we're talking about with the daily emails. And if you want a lesson on how and why to do daily emails, I think signing up for Ben's list and his and I'm not getting a commission for this, by the way. I just really like what he does. and his email players system are fantastic. Little plug for Ben.
Oh yeah, and if you need the URL, you can just go to bensettle.com/free to download his free report. So I see, I've been telling people to go subscribe to Ben for 15 episodes now. And so.
Other than Perry, of course, I write for Perry, but I think that's the only newsletter I get these days.
Yeah, and same here. I'm paying $100 a month for that thing. $100 a month for just, I don't know what, 10 pages a month. And, my friends they look at me, getting so excited like a schoolgirl about this little envelope that comes in every month, and they just don't get me. But they don't understand just how I turn these 10 pages into quite literally tens of thousands of dollars, right, every single month with my emails. So it's pretty cool. So John, what kind of work do you do for clients these days? Like, if anyone's listening right now wants to hire you, what could you do for them? How can you improve their life?
Yeah, I do. I offer services like daily emails. I do those for a very large client that probably most of the people on the call would recognize. I prefer, just for confidentiality, not to say who that is, but Igor and I talked about it before the call. And I think Igor would agree. A lot of people on the call would recognize this name.
Yeah, every single soul on the call right now recognizes the name.
Okay, great. So I do some daily emails for his service that he offers. And as I mentioned before, I work with Perry Marshall and do, I probably write 7 or 8 or 10 emails for him every week, and for different programs. He doesn't send 10 emails out to everybody on his list. As every list should be, once it gets to a certain size, it should be segmented, of course, and you're sending things that are appropriate for each segment. I have another client that I do the same thing for. He posts blog posts, a few times every week and needs emails directing to those. And he also sells info products about, improving your credit score and things like that. So I probably write about, we were talking about this before. I never figured it out exactly, but probably somewhere between 40 and 50 emails a week.
Wow.
But yeah, if there are people on the list who are interested in that service, the daily email service, they can just email me at Fancher. That's FANCHER.com.
All right. And I also recommend you guys zip over to johnfancher.com to grab a free copy of the 99 Questions Report, which allows you to come up with a bunch of things to write about. And just so you can see the kind of quality of work John puts out. You'll also find on the same very website testimonials from, some really, high-profile clients, including Perry Marshall, of course. And you'll be able to learn more about how you can work with John, whether for consulting or having him write your emails, whatever that may be. But either way, John, I couldn't thank you enough for this call. I mean, I'm still, buzzing from that, study you told us about, with the unsubscribe rates being, in complete opposite of the frequency, which is, again, to my ears, that's just, I'm going to milk that for what it's worth, for sure. And I appreciate taking the time. I mean, the guy who writes 40 emails a week probably does not have, too much free time to give to some crazy Russian who wants to interview him. So anyway, guys, if you're listening and you want to work with John, or you just want to find out more, or just want to grab some free stuff, head over to johnfancher.com. And if you want to hire John and want to discuss that possibility to write your daily emails or to write an email sequence, email him at john@johnfancher.com. Remember, this guy writes emails for Perry Marshall. Right? The Perry Marshall. So expect the price tag to be hefty. Don't waste his time. Don't embarrass me. And make sure that you only approach John if you are truly serious. So John, again, truly from the bottom of my Russian heart, thank you so much. And until we talk next time, have a good one.
Oh, this was a blast. Thank you so much, Igor.
Thank you for listening to The List Building Lifestyle. Make sure to subscribe on iTunes or Google Play to never miss an episode. Because who knows, just one conversion tactic we share on the show might double your list and double your business. Download the transcript of today's episode and all future episodes at listbuildinglifestyleshow.com. And don't forget to claim your complimentary copy of the Wealthy List Builder Survival Guide at listbuildinglifestyleshow.com/survival. This is Igor Kheifets, and until next time we talk, have a good one.
This is thepodcastfactory.com.